Hassan Shami joins us from Detroit, USA, Motor City. As I said, he's a Lebanese pharmacist and entrepreneur, but he's become famous around the world for his social media advocacy, for haq, for justice, for the people of Palestine. I'm glad to say, looking in fine fettle, Hassan joins me now. Hassan, I was asking Miko Peled earlier, or making the point to him rather, that the issue of what's happening in Gaza, happening in Palestine, is finally beginning to have some traction in the United States public opinion. If you'd told me when I started out on this battle more than 50 years ago that the day would come when most Americans would agree with me rather than agree with Israel, I would never have believed you. And if you look at the polling amongst Joe Biden's support base, a very clear majority of people not only disagrees with what Biden is doing with Israel in Gaza, but half the people who voted for Joe Biden last time believe that Israel is committing genocide. What has brought about this tremendous change?
Well, George, I want to thank you for having me on the show. We love you out here in Dearborn, Michigan. We remember your 2006 legendary interview with Sky News during the 2006 war with Israel and Lebanon. So thank you for having me. But,
thank you.
Welcome. Here in Dearborn, we grew up attending protests since the 90s, the 80s. I was born in 89, but in my childhood, my father took me to all the protests against the Israeli aggression on Lebanon and Palestine. And I don't think my father saw the light at the end of the tunnel. But today, now as we go to these protests in 2023 and 2024, due to social media and due to the narrative not being able to be tightly controlled by mainstream media anymore, Israel and their war crimes have been exposed, and we finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. The public opinion, not only in America, but all over the world has changed. So we see millions of people all over social media and coming out and protest all from every inch of the earth supporting the Palestinians, and it's a great sight to see.
It is. I've spoken actually more than once in Dearborn. I love it dearly. Please give my salam to anyone who's met me there. It's crucial for a Democrat to win the state of Michigan. And I would have thought at this point in time, I've got a better chance of winning the state of Michigan in November than Joe Biden. And I'm not even on the ballot.
That is true. You do, So right now, what we're doing out here in Michigan is one of 3 states in the country that has an uncommitted section on the ballot. So they're pushing a campaign to have all Muslims and anyone who supports the Palestinian cause and all minorities to vote uncommitted on the Democratic section of the ticket on February 27th. And the strategy is to show the minorities, to give, the Muslims and the Arabs and all minorities the hope that we can control the elections in Michigan. Michigan is a swing state, and we probably can't elect a president, but we sure as hell can, have one of the front runners lose an election. So if we get over 15% of people voting uncommitted, that gives us a lot of power, and that's a strategy right now.
They've tried hard to win you back. They've sent Biden. I think he announced that he'd place sanctions on 2 settlers in the West Bank. He must think you're cheap. Are they still trying, or have they given up?
Yeah, this past week, they showed up to Dearborn to try to talk to, politicians and leaders in the Dearborn and Metro Detroit area. But they crossed the red line. No one's going to vote for Biden. Setting up sanctions on settlers means absolutely nothing. The Democrats have hijacked the Muslim community specifically for way too long post 9/11. And all they did was point their fingers at the Republicans and say, well, they hate you. We're going to protect you. And they haven't protected us. Even during the Obama time, if you see all the wars and all the bombs dropped by Obama himself, the Democrats have never protected the Middle East or the Muslims and Arabs. And finally, because of this war, I feel like everyone's starting to wake up to this. So Joe Biden and his team, Genocide Joe, Butcher Biden, has crossed the red line, and he won't be winning in November in Michigan.
The number of, Obama bombed, I think, 7 different Muslim countries. in his 2 terms, including killing American citizens, by the way, without due process, and then killing the son of one of the American citizens in a subsequent droning. We droned a lot of folks, he might have said or crooned in his tan suit. He was, of course, no friend of Arab Americans, of Muslim Americans, and certainly not Arabs and Muslims abroad. But if you look at Biden now, Biden has actually bombed, he's bombed Gaza, at least his bombs were used. He's himself bombed Lebanon and Syria and Iraq and Yemen. And it's only February. It's not even the middle of February. That's quite a record of Arab blood spilled by a Democratic president that said he was going to protect you.
Yeah, Biden's definitely not going to protect us. You see, it's funny. They try to bomb Yemen and go to war with Yemen because they're blocking the Red Sea and they haven't killed anyone. But why are they allowing Israel to continue their aggression? You know, so the Israelis, the illegal state of Israel, has killed and bombed and is committing genocide and ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, yet you continue to fund them. But when the Yemenis block the Red Sea just to try to stop the war, you want to kill and bomb them. Quite hypocritical, if you ask me.
Now, what's the reason for the success of independent broadcasters, social media analysts, pundits like you? You're a very handsome guy. You've got a great voice. Is that it, or are the people just now more sensitized to the message, or is it both?
I think it's people are sensitized to the message. You know, there's myself and many others that are a lot better than me. That we're just speaking truth. We're speaking truth. We're speaking from the heart. We're not scripted. We're very passionate in our beliefs because we are standing with light. As Netanyahu says, there's light versus darkness. Well, we are the light and Israel's the darkness. Netanyahu is the darkness. And so when we go out on social media and we speak with truth, with so much passion, it just catches it gravitates to the hearts of the listeners. And so that's all it is.
Yeah, light and darkness. I think he was foolish to initiate that metaphor, because nothing could be more clear than that they represent the heart of darkness. Nowhere more so than in the deliberate, I was going to say indiscriminate, but it isn't indiscriminate. It's deliberate. A deliberate slaughter of children, deliberate slaughter of women who might have children, go on to have children or more children. The deliberate slaughter of doctors and writers and poets and intellectuals. The decapitation strategy of Palestinian society. The purpose is clear, isn't it? It's a genocidal purpose of ethnic cleansing. They're in Rafah for a reason, aren't they? They're in Rafah because next stop is the Sinai Desert. And that's where Israel really wants them, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is ethnically cleansing. They're ethnically cleansing the Palestinians. They've been exposed throughout social media. And, the world sees it. If Israel and Palestine were labeled X and Y, and you just listed, under each one, the history, the entire world would support Y, which is Palestine. But because of Israel and politics and the Zionist movement from the late 1890s and the evil and greed for money, they support Israel. But you take out the names and you just list what these two people or countries have gone through. And I know for a fact the world will support Palestine.
Now, when I was in Dearborn, it's the first time, only time in my life, when all the cops were on our side in these issues. Is that still the case? Is the cause really dominant, hegemonic in the Detroit area?
Dearborn is a blessing. We have a great mayor named Mayor Abdullah Hamoud, who's one of us, young 32-year-old, 33-year-old mayor, good friend of mine. The Dearborn police, unbelievable, amazing cops in the city that protect us. And, a lot of the immigrants in Dearborn came here in the 1970s. My mother and father left Lebanon during the Civil War in the 1970s, came to Dearborn, and a couple years after, Israel invaded Lebanon and occupied it for over 20 years. So the people of Dearborn, the politicians, the cops, they know what's, what we've been through and what we fight for, and we stand with truth, and they support us and they protect us at all costs.
It's the only place in the world I've been where the police queue up for selfies with me. It was a remarkable experience. How can people support your work, Hassan? Where can they find you?
I'm just on Instagram and Twitter. My Instagram is Hassan Shami, 1 with an underscore. I'm just out here putting videos to promote truth, to promote the Palestinian cause, to promote unity amongst all faiths, all people, brown, white, Muslim, Christian. If you see, when you study this war between Israel and Palestine, which you can't even call it a war, they try to paint it as a Jewish versus Muslim war, but it's not Jews versus Muslims, because there are Palestinian Christians who are being affected. But the media doesn't want to talk about the Christians for a reason. So this is not just Jews versus Muslims. This is Zionism against the world. This is terrorism against the world. And so support, follow my Instagram, and along with many others, support the videos, share them, and let's spread truth around the world.
Well, you spoke very important words there. Not only is it not us against Jews, there are growing numbers of Jews who are identifying with us. Miko Peled, that was on just before you, is a veteran of that. But we've now got a whole generation of American Jews, a substantial number of whom, a substantial proportion of which are identifying with the cause of justice. As Malcolm X said, I believe in justice, no matter who it's for, no matter who it's against. That's the spirit, isn't it?
It's the humanitarian spirit. You must stand up for truth. You must stand up against falsehood, right? It is, as humans, we can sense what is right and what is wrong. And I continue to stand up against Zionism, because Zionism is the cancer to the world. It's the cancer to the Middle East. And as long as there's a Zionist government in the Middle East, there will never be peace.
Hassan, you're a credit to your parents and your people. Give them my salam. And I'm sure you'll get a lot more new followers after this appearance this evening. Hassan Shami, thank you very much for being on the
Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
Shows.